Good evening. Welcome to the English News Bulletin. We'll begin with the headlines. 6 people died in a mining accident in Rwanda sector in Kayonza district while they were engaged in mining activities. On Saturday, France, through its embassy in Kigali, officially thanked the Rwandan Ignace Muhatsi, who was a soldier in the French army for 15 years. Farmers across the country request that unproductive swamps be allocated to them for cultivating them because there are some privately owned but are not being made productive as they should be. My name is Olive Nete. It's a pleasure to have your company tonight. Now to the news in details. 6 people have died in a mining accident in Rwanda sector in Kayonza district while they were engaged in mining activities. The Kayonza district administration is requesting those who carry out mining activities first to conduct an analysis of the place they are going to dig in order to avoid such accidents. Prince Manzi filed the report.
It was during the evening hours on Friday, as miners prepared to call it a day after mining using the open-cast mining system. The hill fell on them. 3 women and 3 men died on the scene. Celestin Aruganyiro was among the miners who survived with a minor injury. Whilst filtering, the one behind us told us that the hill is falling. I jumped, it fell on those behind me. It also injured me, but I managed to get home. Rescue operations began immediately. Some were dragged out Friday evening and others were dragged out Saturday, where the last one was found Saturday at 1 p.m. Family members of the deceased suggest what to be cautious of. Why would they send people in risky areas? Miners should operate in strong land areas rather than soft. They should take care of employees as they do for the outcomes of their work. Wolfram Mining and Processing Company Limited is in charge of mining activities in this area. Its coordinator, Aristarik Murara, tackles on what follows after an accident. This is an accident that happened. It was almost reassessed the last accident. Measurements are always amended. We always urge our employees, and before work, we undertake the risk assessment. What follows? There are 200,000 Rwandan francs allocated to the family of the deceased, as well as the triple of the salary, and this is done in only 2 months. The Vice Mayor of Kayonza District, in charge of social welfare, Jean Damascene Harerimana, requests those carrying out mining activities to analyze the areas of operation. They should analyze the area they are going to operate in. They used to operate here in sunny seasons, but because of the rain seasons, the soil became soft. And they request technicians in mining companies to always assess the areas of operation to avoid such accidents. Statistics from Wolfram Mining and Processing Company Limited show that in 2021, mining accidents killed 2 people, and in 2022, 1 person died. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Condolences to the families that lost their loved ones. Now on Saturday, France, through its embassy in Kigali, officially thanked the Rwandan Ignace Muhatsi, who was a soldier in the French army for 15 years. It is as on Saturday, France commemorated 105 years since the end of the First World War. Prince Manzi with the details.
In today's 105 years commemoration ceremony in Kigali since the end of the First World War, the French ambassador to Rwanda, Antoine Afray, on behalf of his country, thanked Chief Sergeant Ignace Muhatsi for the good work he did in the French army between 1981 and 1996. Ambassador Afray said that it is important to remember Rwandan who dedicated himself to France.
C'est très important pour nous d'avoir Ignace Muhatsi ici.
It is very important that we are here with Ignace Muhatsi. He is the one who makes Rwanda related to today's ceremony because he served France in its army. I'm sure that before that, he was a teacher in refugee camps. You all know the history of Rwanda and the politics of discrimination against the Tutsi from 1959 to 1994. Before joining the French army, Inyas teacher in the refugee camps in Uganda and was involved in teaching some of the country liberators.
Des jeunes gens qui ensuite sont venus libérer leur pays.
Chief Sergeant Mohatsi states that it is important that France remembers the work he did, and that remembering is essential. You are well aware that there are violations near here in Eastern DRC, but I think that this rebuilding of Europe would be a reason of hope for Rwanda, for its neighbors, and for Central and Eastern Africa. It shows that there are no enemies forever, that friendship between countries will win, even if those countries have been fighting for many years. The First World War killed nearly 10 million soldiers and civilians numbering to this number, without including millions injured.
Thank you, Prince, for the details. Now to other matters, business matters. Private companies operating in Rwanda that usually bids for government tenders says that the new established law gives opportunities to Rwandan companies and that this will lead to the development of industries and as well as of made in Rwanda products in general. We have more on the story. In the new law that governs public tenders, opportunities allocated to Rwandan companies have increased from 500 million to 2 billion for public procurement. And these standards have also been raised for other types of tenders. In the new law, the value of made in Rwanda products also increased from 100 million to 200 million. People in the private sector are content of the changes made.
This reduces the number of foreigners bidding for tenders and will support the development of Rwandan businesses and their products, since these foreigners may also come with materials needed, and at some point this would make the bidding a bit hard. But the fact that this has now increased from 500 million to 2 billion, it will greatly support businesses of Rwandan entrepreneurs.
The working experience required for startup companies bidding on small tenders has also been removed.
It was unfair to ask for a working experience to a starting business, since it would really be hard to get it. But now they are starting tender that is allowed to bid for, and if they perform well, they get to another category, and by doing that, they get that experience needed. And it is good that now they can also bid for a tender, even if it is in the smallest category, since he gets to other categories by his performance. This is the same way as a person who moves from senior 1 of secondary school until he gets to university.
According to the Rwanda Public Procurement Authority, sanctions given to entrepreneurs has also been revised, as explained by Joyeuse Uwingeneye, the Director General of the Rwanda Public Procurement Authority. We used to give sanctions to entrepreneurs if we find misconduct. For example, we would give them a punishment of 7 years without bidding again for public tenders, but it has been proven to be a hindrance to the growth of the businesses. Let's say if we punish a small startup company and prohibits the company to bid for 7 years, it would be a heavy sanction, and this affects also the workers because they benefit from the company. When given these sanctions, business owners also fire employees. The Rwanda Public Procurement Authority points out that these reforms done in the provision of public tenders will support the development of made in Rwanda products and Rwandan businesses that bid for public procurement. Now, RPF Inkotanyi members in the southern province have committed themselves to being accountable as leaders, because failing to do so has negative repercussions on the development of the country and her people. The commitment was made on Saturday during the party's General Assembly at the provincial level, during which the governor of the southern province, Alice Kaitesi, was chosen to lead the party at that level. The new chairperson of the RPF Inkotanyi party in the southern province urged members to be exemplary as leaders and to steer clear of bad practices that hinder the nation's development, because they will not be tolerated. Now to agricultural matters. Some farmers across the country request that unproductive swamps be allocated to them and be cultivated, because there are some privately owned but are not being used to make productivity as they should be used. The Rwanda Agricultural Board assures people to collectively address this issue. Prince Manzi takes us through.
The Bishenyi Marsh in Kamonyi district, southern province, is among the revamped. Farmers in this 110-hectare marsh appreciate how it was revamped, adding that it contributed to the increase of production.
Uyu munsi rero duhinga sezo 3. Sezo ya mbere duhinga ibigori kuva mu kwezi kwa 9 kuri 15
Currently, we cultivate the 3 seasons. We cultivate maize in September to February, and from February to May, we cultivate beans. And nowadays, we also cultivate onions in May. But before, it was hard to cultivate onions in May season because of the lack of water.
On the other hand, Rulindo district residents demonstrate that the marshes in this area are not being produced by investors as they should, hence requesting the government to allocate the marshes to them for cultivation. Investors introduced their own crops. Normally, the benefit we got supported us in paying various things, including the community health insurance and buying food. Residents request that the policy of allocating larger plots of cultivation to investors to be revised and rather be given to farmers for cultivation, as currently they are not being productive. Since 2003, marshes revamping was emphasized on, and to 2006, at least 11,000 hectares were revamped, and to this year, 68,000 hectares were revamped. 44,000, approximately to 85% of them, are being used for irrigation. The acting head of the Irrigation Innovation Department at the Rwanda Agriculture Board, Jerome Hitayezu, states that the marsh revamping program is continuous for a long period.
Muri imyaka 5 iri imbere tuzakora nibura hegitari ibihumbi 17. Harimo iki rero? Muri zo hegitari hari bishanga bishya tuzakora.
In these 5 years, at least 70,000 hectares of marshes will be revamped, and there are new marshes to be introduced. This will go hand in hand with raising awareness in farmers in terms of contributing in renovating the non-functioning marshes. On the issue of marshes that are not being made productive, RAB assures that this issue is going to be addressed.
Abaturage burya barabyemera. Abaturage badafite ubutaka bwo guhinga yagize amahirwe akabona umubwira ati hinga tuzagabana nta kibazo.
Residents understand the cultivating and reshare policy, but it is understandable that the land be allocated to them for it to be made productive, as the government has invested heavily in it. So the government assures to address this. The Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources has recently issued instructions stating that those who own the land designated for cultivation and are being made productive must allocate them to those who want to cultivate it in order to increase the agricultural production this season, while those who have pastures must breed on 30% of it and 70% will be allocated for agriculture. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince, for the details. And as you know, every Saturday we have a health segment, and today we'll be talking about something unusual. It is the music therapy, but specifically we'll be reviewing how this kind of therapy assists children with special needs. And Barbara Bennett is a music therapist. She'll take us through and explain more about the benefits of the therapy to kids with special needs. Take a look.
Kids with special needs have a lot of special needs, right? And some of those needs are emotional regulation. Maybe you've seen a child doing this in public. That usually is an indication that they're anxious and they need something to calm them. Sometimes it's just having a parent nearby, but sometimes they need to learn some skills that will teach them how to calm themselves, especially if they're in school and mom and dad aren't around, or if they're with a caregiver and the caregiver doesn't know how to address their needs. Very often, kids with special needs are in the mainstream classrooms in schools, and teachers don't know how to recognize that they have needs. One of the needs of a special needs kid is that they're very bright, but they have a slow processor. So they need some time to be able to think through what you've just asked them before they respond. It's kind of like a slow computer back when, right? Now we're all used to these fast computers. It just takes them time. So another part of music therapy is helping them learn the skills to advocate for themselves. I need to think about this or that kind of thing. So music therapy, it's more approachable than if they're just seeing a person, right? So if I don't have the vocabulary and if I'm trying to process something and I'm trying to find the words, it can be very stress-inducing. Music allows kids to just, or, right? So they can make music. They don't have to know how to play an instrument to play it. If I'm a music educator, I'm all about the outcome. Has this child learned how to play an instrument? But as a music therapist, I'm all about what can we learn in the process of playing an instrument. So what can I learn about myself? What can I learn about other people? And how can music help me do that? Music very often draws up emotions that we didn't know were there, and they come to the surface. Kids with special needs, sometimes they're sensory seeking. They need to feel the vibrations of something to calm themselves. Sometimes they need the lights off because there are too many things that are distracting them. A child with ADHD, sometimes there are so many things that are screaming for their attention. They need something that's over their ears, and they need a dark room so that they can focus. And the thing over their ears might include music. So one thing a music therapist might do would be to help them find the kind of music that's going to help them focus. Kids with special needs also need to build confidence and autonomy. They're very capable of doing a lot of different things, but we, in the neurotypical public, we don't necessarily recognize that. So music therapy will help them find their skills, help them find what they're good at, and give them an opportunity to do those things and build confidence.
Did you work with other kids with mental disabilities? If yes, what were those kids suffering from, and how did the music therapy help them?
So worked with kids with Down syndrome, autism spectrum disorder, from every part of the spectrum. One student that I had had autism spectrum disorder to the point that all he did was rock. And if something agitated him, he could easily start hitting and start beating other people, right? Which is dangerous. So my supervisor and I got a call from one of the teachers that he was having a problem and needed some intervention. So we went in, we found him, and we just started playing on the ukulele. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. So just slowly starting at the pace that he was at with his anxiety, and then slowly slowing it down, and he started to reach out like this and play the uke and started rocking at a much slower pace, and his anxiety dissipated and he was calm. All right, so that's one thing. At the other end of the spectrum, I had a student here in Rwanda who every day, his mom said, every day he comes home with more bruises. And I was like, why? What? She said, well, if he refuses to answer a question in class or doesn't answer quickly enough, the teacher will beat him. If he answers incorrectly, then the children will beat him on the playground. So every day he comes home with more bruises. Do you think you could work with him? And I'm like, sure. He was the sweetest boy. And in the beginning, he would come here and he couldn't look at me in the eye. And he'd always look away, and I'd ask him questions, which is one of those signs of autism. But he was a brilliant kid. And I said, so what do you want to do? What should we learn? I don't know. So we started with ukulele, and I showed him where to put his fingers. So I just showed you. You've never played a ukulele before, but if you put your finger right there, and we can play. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And he played it for the first time, and I sang along with him, and he was like, what? I can play an instrument. And he made eye contact with me and smiled, and I thought, yes. So little by little, we learned a couple of different chords, and then we would sing different songs with those chords. And then he said, how about the piano? Can I play the piano? I'm like, yes, you can. So then we worked a little bit on the piano, and his confidence level was like, Like suddenly he could sit up straight, he could look at me in the eye. He was communicating more of his emotions with his mom and dad. He would go home and he would draw pictures, and then he would take pictures of them and send them to me on my phone on WhatsApp. And it was just like beautiful. He felt valued, and he felt loved, and he felt important.
How can caregivers or parents help their children while they're doing this during this music therapy class so that they can overcome?
That's a great question. And even if I'm the only music therapist that I know of in Rwanda, and I don't have a whole lot of time, but there are some things that parents can do just on a regular basis. For example, a child with ADHD, they don't have an internal clock. They don't know how much time has passed. If they're doing something they're really interested in, they could take hours and it feels like minutes have gone by. If it's something that they hate, it feels like hours, but it's just 2 minutes, right? So one thing we can do to help those kids is to give them a song and say, okay, when this song is finished, I want your room cleaned up. Or by the time this song is finished, which is a song that they like, right? So they have an idea of how long it's going to take. By the time the song is finished, I want you to have your pajamas on and your teeth brushed. And that gives them a sense of timing, right? I feel like what kids lack these days is attention, eye-to-eye contact, or time. Kids are craving time with their parents, but we often are so busy with our everyday lives and our business and other things that we don't have the time to give to our kids. And so we send them off to the caregiver to deal with them. And the caregivers are even less skilled at engaging the kids. And if we can do simple things like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and have the kids sing along with us. It doesn't have to be perfect. What it is you're making music together. Ataru mutima, wanje muchiza.
This is all that we had for you tonight. Many thanks for sticking with us. My name is Olive Nete. See you next.